Nephew, listen to me. The more you speak English, the better you get at it. After all, you're in the USA now.
Wow, this place really looks wonderful.
Of course, this is Manhattan.
Is there a supermarket near?
I can only dream about having a market here. No, my market's in the Bronx.
Wow, looks like a really tough area.
This is your nephew.
Why so, when you're doing so well?
Oh, it's not Mr. Chu's idea, but his future wife wants to buy a ranch after the wedding.
He already stole some candy bars.
This mirror's useful.
Anything else you want, babe?
No.
Again!
They're here. Can we trust this guy?
These are the only guys can handle a score of this beef.
I want the diamonds now.
I'll take that!
You okay?
Thank you.
No problem.
Where is he, you stupid bitch? If you don't tell me right now, they'll keep tearing this place apart!
You are all garbage!
Are you okay? No!
Rumble in the Bronx Flying kicked its way to Hong Kong theatres in January of 1995 and proved a huge success for Jackie Chan. Produced on a budget of around $8 million, they filmed the movie in Canada from June to October of '94. They did additional filming in New York for the opening sequence, but the rest of the movie is Vancouver, doubling for New York. As this is the first movie in which Jackie performed his own English dialogue, New Line Cinema felt it would be ideal to sell to the US market and other parts of the world. They released it in February of 1996 for the USA, but it didn't make its way to the UK till July of 1997. At this point the movie was already 2 years old. When it arrived stateside it proved a huge success, making $32 million. The US cut was redubbed and a number of scenes were removed, undermining the comedy. For many moviegoers this will be their introduction to Jackie Chan, despite him dominating the action movie market for over 15 years. Jackie Chan was already well known throughout the world, but Hollywood failed to recognise his talents for years, making a very weak attempt to introduce him into audiences in the Cannonball Run films. With the huge success of Rumble in the Bronx, New Line Cinema subsequently picked up Police Story 3, Super Cop, distributing it as Super Cop, which proved another financial success. Jackie Chan was now getting the attention he deserved. This led to him co-starring in Rush Hour with Chris Tucker, a huge hit with audiences around the world, and Jackie was now a big star in Hollywood. Then came a new slew of American movies starring Jackie Chan that would usually have him team up with an American actor, like the Shanghai Noon movies, further sequels to Rush Hour, The Accidental Spy, The Tuxedo, The Spy Next Door, The Medallion and the remake of The Karate Kid. Some proved more successful than others, but the public was certainly impressed with Jackie's talents. The production proved a little difficult in Vancouver when trying to replicate New York. Initially, the team had put up graffitied scenery during the day and had to take it down during the evening, while simultaneously making sure that no mountains made it into the background. However, Jackie and the director decided it was best the production team focused on the action and not worry too much about the scenery. During filming, Jackie injured his right leg performing a stunt. They decided to leave the shot in the film where he jumps onto the hovercraft and you can see his ankle snap. He spent much of the remaining shoot with one leg and a cast. When it came to the film's climax, the crew coloured a sock to resemble the shoe on his good foot, which Jackie wore over his cast. Just goes to show Jackie is hard as nails. The lead actress and several stunt doubles were also injured during the shooting of a motorcycle stunt, with several people suffering broken ankles and other limbs. All these are included in the outtakes, which are always a highlight of Jackie's movies, showing that he and his team do the stuff for real. The film's original spoken dialogue consisted of all the actors speaking their native language most of the time, which often happens in Hong Kong action films. In the original sound mix, Jackie Chan spoke his native Cantonese and English, while actors portraying Nancy and Danny speak English, though sometimes Danny speaks Chinese. All of the original dialogue was intended to be dubbed over in the international and Hong Kong films market, and New Line Cinema overdubbed and slightly changed the original English dialogue. Jackie Chan plays Kyung. Jackie is like a one-man band. He can do everything beyond being an amazing martial artist. He is also a stuntman, director, writer, producer, and even a singer. No one comes close to the amount of work he undertakes on his movies, and no American action star comes close to the skill of Jackie. He was in his 40s by this point and was still jumping around and taking part in death-defying stunts. This guy is a machine. Anita Mui plays Elaine, who becomes the new owner of the supermarket. Anita was an accomplished singer in Hong Kong, and many labelled her the Madonna of Asia. She unfortunately passed away in 2003 due to cervical cancer. Françoise Yip plays Nancy, a Canadian actress who plays a dancer who works in a seedy bar, and is an associate and girlfriend of the biker gang leader, Tony. The late Bill Tung plays Uncle Bill. Tung was a famous jockey and horse trainer in his early days, and then moved into acting. If you are a fan of Jackie's films, you'll notice him from the Police Story series. Mark Ackerstream, who lost his life on the Crow TV series, plays the gang leader Tony, and Garvin Cross plays Angelo. Surprisingly, Garvin looks a lot like Daniel Craig. They should use him as Daniel's stunt double for the Bond films. Morgan Lamb plays the disabled child Danny, who is the brother of Nancy. Morgan only made one more movie appearance in Crying Freeman, and appears to have left the industry. The film begins with Kyung arriving in New York to attend his uncle's wedding. His uncle owns a supermarket in the Bronx, but wants to sell it and settle down with his wife-to-be. Kyung is introduced to his uncle's neighbour Danny and gives him his Sega Game Gear, but with no game in it. And later on you see Danny playing it and there's still no game inside it. It's magic, people. Jackie heads to the supermarket and is surprised to learn his uncle's new wife is African American and takes a liking to her very quickly. The new owner Elaine arrives to finalise the takeover deal, and as Jackie Chan helps around the store, he fails to realise the glass is a two-way mirror and makes a bit of a tit of himself as he shows off his muscles. His uncle is loaned a vintage car for the wedding, but later that night a street gang starts a motorcycle race near Uncle Bill's apartment. They're about to run over the classic car until Kyung jumps down and stops them, angering Nancy, the girlfriend of Tony, the gang leader. While attending his uncle's wedding, Kyung offers to stay around for longer to help Elaine with the store. The following morning, Jackie is helping and stops a number of biker gang members stealing food, but they threaten Kyung with a knife. So he decides to defend himself and beats the living crap out of them. He tells them to leave the supermarket alone. They run away in fear, but want to take revenge. That night, Kyung is led into a trap by Nancy and is cornered by the gang. Angelo wants to go one step further and kill Kyung, but the gang leader says he's gone too far. Kyung makes his way home heavily wounded and collapses outside Nancy's flat, who it turns out to be is Danny's sister. Nancy realises who Kyung is and takes care of him, feeling guilty for what she has done. The following day, Angelo is involved in an illegal diamond deal that goes bad, and the small-time gang becomes a victim of a much larger and more effective crime syndicate led by the White Tiger. Events transpire that lead to one seriously devastated supermarket, and see Tony's gang and Kyung team up to take down White Tiger. Now, I'm sure most of you have only seen the US theatrical cut, like me, which runs at roughly 89 minutes. For Asian markets, the cuts run to about 104 minutes. Like many of the titles picked up for the re-release in the USA, New Line Cinema cut out a lot of the humour, often ruining the movie for fans that had already seen the movies at their original length. Operation Condor was a great example. I picked up the Laserdisc, which had a new dubbing by Jackie, which was cool, but had a lot of the humour removed, and they also botched up the title, getting it confused with the first film. The first film was released and retitled Operation Condor 2. For the comparisons between the longer cut and the US cut, I acquired a video CD copy of the Asian version. Now, some reports say two scenes were exclusively done for the international version that see Jackie arrive in New York and when he and Nancy are chased outside the nightclub. So let's have a look at what actually has been removed from the US cut. Some more footage of Kyung and Uncle Bill in the car talking about the supermarket. Kyung does more comical antics in front of the two-way mirror, pulling off some Michael Jackson dance moves. A scene in which two biker gang members extort some money while Uncle Bill is showing his supermarket to Elaine, and then steal some items from beside the cash register. The motorcycle race outside Uncle Bill's house is slightly extended. A scene where Uncle Bill and his wife sing and dress in Chinese traditional clothes at the wedding. Kyung does some more exercises before he rolls into a headstand. Kyung spots more shoplifting by the gang's Cantonese-speaking member from the office with a two-way mirror. Kyung discusses kung fu in a bit more detail after the first attack at the shop. When Kyung is ambushed in the alley, the attack is more violent. An entire scene the morning after the night of the alley ambush, Kyung arrives at the supermarket to find it's being robbed by some youths. Simultaneously, the two gang members from the beginning of the film return to extort money, only to be scared off by Kyung. Immediately afterwards, the entire biker gang shows up and Kyung tries to intimidate them, but eventually calls the police. This scene also explains why the motorcycle gang chased Kyung to the parking garage. On the parking garage rooftop, Kyung begs for a woman's help, but inadvertently scares her off. The long-haired syndicate thug asks Kyung if he has seen any diamonds. Two policemen wait for Angelo in their car as he attempts to retrieve the diamonds. A full scene after one of Angelo's men is murdered by a syndicate using a tree shredder, where Kyung and Nancy return to the apartment with shopping. A displeased Elaine emerges and describes what happens to the store, and seems disappointed that Kyung is getting involved with Nancy. And finally, slightly more footage of Kyung trying to bargain about the diamonds with the gang in the boathouse, and the end credits don't feature the Ash song Kung Fu, and have instead a pop song featuring Jackie singing. With the original release of Rumble in the Bronx, composer Nathan Wang, a veteran of Hong Kong cinema, took on the task of composing the music. The original score had many jazz and rock elements used for the fight scenes, but it's not instantly recognisable, and really is just there to serve as background music. For its US theatrical run, much to Wang's surprise, his score was entirely replaced with new music. Instead, J. Peter Robinson, who I had discussed in my recent review of Highlander 3, composed a new score. There was some confusion about his involvement in the 1985 release of Police Story for the US market. Many reports said he did the score for that in the 80s, but that's not entirely true. As part of a 5-picture deal, John would recompose the following movies for New Line after Rumble in the Bronx: Police Story 1 and 2, Mr. Nice Guy, and First Strike. The new score to Rumble in the Bronx nicely suits the movie. In many areas it does sound very much like a keyboard trying to replicate an orchestra, but many fans of Jackie would instantly recognise the music if they heard it. So I think John did a good job with the limited budget he had. The end title sequence featuring outtakes of the movie featuring the song Kung Fu by the band Ash, which was their first ever single from their album 1977, released in 1995. The lyrics for the song, which mentions Jackie Chan, make it seem perfectly ideal to attach to Rumble in the Bronx. I loved this song when I first heard it, and it is the perfect tune to represent Jackie Chan. There was a soundtrack release for Rumble in the Bronx, but only 4 tracks were published as part of First Strike's soundtrack. So in total, only about 9 minutes of music was released, and the rest of the CD was taken up with the music to First Strike. Nathan Wang's music was also published in 1995 as part of Jackie Chan's Best of Movie Themes, featuring 5 tracks from the film. This release was only published in Hong Kong, so it may be very difficult to track down on CD. It's hard to remember when I was first introduced to Jackie Chan. I'd already seen a number of his films before the release of Rumble in the Bronx. The early 90s Armour of God 2, Operation Condor, was the first one I fondly remember. A great twist on the spy genre and Indiana Jones. It had crazy fight scenes and was loaded with Jackie's wacky sense of humour. Police Story was probably the one that impressed me the most. The stunts were mental and the film's theme was so catchy, plus it features Jackie's best song. Then the glorious City Hunter came to my attention thanks to its great spoof on Street Fighter 2. That scene alone is worth seeing the movie for. When Rumble in the Bronx arrived, it was nice to actually hear Jackie's real voice. For so many years I'd been hearing the dubbed version, which was obviously not Chinese, but for some reason it kind of suited him, but it's great to hear him finally. The dubbing for the US cut does provide some unintentional laughs. Some of the dialogue has been changed, and I don't think the English speaking actors returned to do the new dub. It's hard to tell really. I think the actress who plays Nancy sounds the same, and obviously Jackie provides his voice again. But to get an idea how it sounds, let's sample a few funny clips.
Hey, remember, don't scratch it or anything.
Just relax. I'll treat it like my baby.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
What about the explosion? You've been out there playing with your toys.
Hold it! Stop!
Oh, this is my best friend Kyung. And my sister Nancy, isn't she pretty? Oh, well, not right now.
They killed Lance. Who killed Lance?
guys in the limo, it was terrible.
If you get a chance to listen to the original dub, it works far better. You hear the English actors' real voices, which helps with their performances, and Jackie's as well. I think for future releases of the film they should provide the original cut and audio, and when the characters speak Chinese, provide subtitles with a more faithful translation. I certainly think the longer cut works a lot better. The cuts made some of the sequences a little choppy, especially when he encounters the biker gang after being beaten up. Jackie's love interest story doesn't really go anywhere, but is made a little clearer in its original form. You get the impression that Elaine has taken an interest in Kyung. His fighting skills and his dedication to support the supermarket mesmerises her. But once Nancy takes a shine to Kyung, he seems to fall for her very quickly, probably in a very superficial way, despite her kneeing him in the balls and luring him into a trap. Then when Kyung returns with Nancy and Elaine has been waiting for him, you get that feeling of jealousy from her when she sees them together. Unfortunately, it still goes nowhere, but it just adds a little more tension between the characters and helps the viewer invest in them. Some of Jackie's fans found the movie a little watered down in comparison to his other movies. The fight scenes are certainly not as long in length compared to his regular Hong Kong features, but that doesn't mean the fights within the film are not exciting or impressive. Jackie moves incredibly fast and jumps around the set like Spider-Man. The biggest set piece is left to the end, like you would expect with every action movie. Jackie chases after a hovercraft and is dragged along the water with no skis, narrowly avoiding other swimmers. If you look closely, there is a stunt double for a couple of crazy manoeuvres, but Jackie does do a lot of the work himself. Then the hovercraft crashes onto the beach and he gets run over by it. Totally mad and something you've never seen before. Not even a James Bond film featured a hovercraft speeding down the streets. Die Another Day made an effort to feature them, but that wasn't until 2002. What's funny is how the filmmakers perceive the American characters. I don't think it stereotypes them, but it seems like they have got confused with how they should act and look. The biker gang act like children high on sugar. All they seem to do is steal crisps and chocolate. They can't have healthy diets, and they just end up going around being dickheads the majority of the time. I don't think the city and the people in it seem real. It's very much like a cartoon world. Where in the world do you see a truck full of balloons? What makes Rumble in the Bronx work is that it's very accessible. The story is simple and easy to follow. It demonstrates everything Jackie Chan can do. It's certainly not the best of his work, but if you are entertained by the movie, as am I, then it will certainly encourage you to seek out his previous movies. Those made in Hong Kong are spectacular. I've seen this film countless times and I never get bored of it. I think the intentional humour works well and the fight scenes are very well staged. Jackie is always a joy to watch. He is just so likeable. He has been in many average movies, usually the fault of the story being totally forgettable, but it's the fight scenes and stunts that you tune in for. Sometimes you strike gold and find one with a strong story. Rumble in the Bronx finally gave Jackie Chan the attention he deserved from Hollywood. They always struggled to take any advantage of his vast knowledge of filmmaking and martial arts, but thankfully they finally opened up their eyes to his greatness. The movie is very easy to obtain and should be in everyone's collection, especially those that admire Jackie and his work. Just like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan is a legend and always will be.
Look, Young, we think these guys work for a syndicate run by a man named White Tiger. You gotta find a way to get to him. So, I want you to just show them this one diamond. Try to get them to talk about the murder and the robbery, and try to get them to name names and places. If you don't, we don't have any hard evidence here.
I only care about my friends.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find more retrospective reviews by clicking on these videos. If you want to watch my upcoming reviews early before they go live on YouTube, you can support me through Patreon. Don't forget the poster designed by my talented artist Peter Bruce, celebrating 100 retrospectives, is still available to purchase. We ship worldwide and postage is affordable.